AITA for destroying my brother's wedding after what he did? I don't even know how to start this. I feel like I'm living in some twisted nightmare that I can't wake up from. My brother and I have always had a rocky relationship. He was the golden boy of the family, perfect grades, star athlete, parents' favorite, and me? Well, I was the screw-up. I learned to deal with it over the years, but deep down, it always hurt. My brother, Sam, recently got married to his girlfriend Emma. Of course, the wedding was a massive event. Everyone was excited, except me. I had this weird gut feeling I couldn't shake, but I pushed it down. It's just your jealousy, I told myself. The ceremony started, and as Sam began reading his vows, something felt off. The words sounded eerily familiar, but I couldn't place why. Then, it hit me like a truck. Those were my vows. He had stolen the exact vows I wrote years ago for my ex-fiancée, the fiancée who dumped me because of him. That's right, I had found out just before the wedding that Sam had slept with my fiancée back then, but I never confronted him. I thought I could move on, but now here he was, stealing not just my relationship, but the words I had poured my heart into. I couldn't hold back. I stormed up the aisle, interrupting the ceremony, and screamed at him in front of everyone. I told the entire room what he had done, how he had stolen my fiancée, how he had wrecked my life, and now he was using my words to marry Emma. The whole wedding fell apart. Emma ran out crying, his friends were stunned, and my parents were horrified. They told me I ruined his life, that I was the selfish one for bringing up old grudges. Now, my entire family has cut me off, and Sam's marriage is hanging by a thread. But after everything, I had to ask, am I the asshole for ruining my brother's wedding, or was I finally justified in standing up for myself? Story 2. AITA for exposing my coworker's affair when his wife was dying? I work with a guy named Mike, and we've always gotten along well enough. A few months ago, I noticed Mike acting strange, taking secret phone calls, sneaking out during lunch breaks. Eventually, he confessed to me that he was having an affair with another coworker. I was shocked, but I tried to stay out of it. Then, I found out that Mike's wife was battling stage 4 cancer. She was dying, and Mike was out here cheating on her like it was no big deal. It disgusted me, but I kept quiet. I didn't want to get involved in their personal lives. But one night, I ran into Mike's wife at the grocery store. She looked frail, her face pale and thin. She smiled and made small talk, telling me how much she was hoping to make it to Christmas. It broke my heart. I couldn't believe Mike was betraying this woman who was literally dying in front of me. That night, I made a decision. I sent her an anonymous letter telling her everything, about Mike's affair, the coworker, all of it. I didn't expect her to take it well, but I figured she had the right to know. A week later, Mike came to work looking like a ghost. His wife had confronted him, and it had triggered a massive fight. She collapsed during the argument, and now she's in the hospital, unconscious. Mike blames me for what happened, saying that if I hadn't meddled, she wouldn't be in this condition. He told me I'm a monster, that I had no right to expose his affair when she was so fragile. A few other coworkers are starting to agree with him, saying I went too far. Now, I can't stop wondering, did I make things worse for a dying woman? Am I the asshole for exposing my coworker's affair while his wife was fighting for her life? Story 3. AITA for telling my best friend's fiancé about his secret kid? I never thought I'd be in this position, but here I am. My best friend, Nick, and I have been close since high school. We've been through thick and thin together, so naturally, I was thrilled when he told me he was getting married to his girlfriend, Lisa. I liked her, she seemed kind, smart, and crazy about Nick. Everything was great, until Nick dropped a bombshell on me about a year ago. Nick had a one-night stand 6 years ago, long before he met Lisa. He never mentioned it to anyone, but apparently, that one-night stand resulted in a kid. He found out through a letter from the woman, saying that she didn't want anything from him, but he should know that he had a son. Nick never responded and kept it all hidden, burying it as if it never happened. A few months ago, Nick invited me over for drinks, and after a few too many beers, he admitted that he had started receiving letters from the boy's mother again. This time, she wanted him to be more involved in his son's life. I was stunned. How could he just ignore his own kid? I asked him if he was going to tell Lisa, and he laughed it off, saying, "Why would I do that? I've got everything under control." Except he didn't. The mother was threatening to take legal action if he didn't at least acknowledge the child, and Nick still refused to tell Lisa. I tried to convince him to come clean, but he said it would ruin everything. That's when I made the hardest decision of my life. I couldn't keep this secret anymore. I reached out to Lisa privately and told her everything, about the affair, the kid, the letters. She was devastated. She confronted Nick, and he denied it at first, but eventually, the truth came out. Their wedding has been called off, and Nick blames me entirely. He says I'm the reason his life is falling apart, that I should have just minded my own business. Our friendship is shattered. But I couldn't let him lie to Lisa and bury the fact that he had a child. I thought she deserved to know before committing to a lifetime with him. Now, I'm the villain in everyone's eyes. Nick's family won't talk to me, and even some of our mutual friends think I went too far. Part of me wonders if they're right. Am I the asshole for telling my best friend's fiancé about his secret child? Story 4. Am I the asshole for cutting my sister out of my life after she slept with my wife? I never thought something like this could happen to me, but here I am, questioning everything I thought I knew about the people I love. I've been married to my wife, Emily, for 5 years. We've had our ups and downs like any couple, but overall, I thought we were solid. My younger sister, Sarah, has always been the wild one in the family. She's carefree, reckless, and does whatever makes her happy, no matter the consequences. I've bailed her out of countless situations, from paying her rent when she was behind to getting her out of trouble with our parents. Despite everything, I loved her. Then, one night, my entire world came crashing down. I was out of town for a work trip, and I came back home earlier than expected. When I walked through the door, I found my wife and my sister together in bed. They didn't even hear me come in. I just stood there in shock, unable to process what I was seeing. When they finally noticed me, Emily started crying, saying it was a mistake, that it had never happened before, that she was drunk and Sarah had seduced her. Sarah didn't say much. She just shrugged, like this was no big deal, like I should have expected it from her. I didn't know what to do. I felt like I had been stabbed in the back by the two people I trusted most. I kicked Sarah out of the house that night, and Emily begged me to forgive her. She said she would do anything to make it right, that it was just a moment of weakness. But I couldn't look at her the same way. We've since separated, and I haven't spoken to Sarah in over a year. My family is furious with me. They keep telling me that I need to forgive Sarah, that family is family, and cutting her out of my life isn't the solution. But how can I forgive her for something like this? She slept with my wife and didn't even seem to care about the damage she caused. I'm constantly told that I'm being unreasonable, that I'm letting one mistake destroy my relationship with my sister. Now I'm wondering, am I the asshole for cutting my sister out of my life after she slept with my wife? Story 5. Am I the asshole for letting my brother go to jail for something I did? I've been carrying this guilt for a long time, and I don't know how much longer I can live with it. About 3 years ago, my younger brother, Jake, and I got into some trouble. We both had a bit of a wild streak back then, hanging out with the wrong crowd, doing things we shouldn't have been doing. One night, we were out with a group of friends, and things got out of hand. We were drinking, messing around, and someone dared me to steal something from a convenience store. I was drunk, stupid, and didn't think about the consequences, so I did it. I grabbed a few things and bolted out of the store. But I wasn't careful. The security cameras caught everything. A few days later, the cops came knocking. My parents were out of town, so it was just me and Jake at home. I panicked. I knew I was in deep trouble, and I didn't want to face the consequences of my actions. So when the police asked who had stolen from the store, I did the unthinkable. I said it was Jake. I told them he was the one who took the stuff, and because he was younger and already had a minor record, the cops didn't question it. They arrested him, and he was charged with theft. Jake was devastated. He swore up and down that he didn't do it, but no one believed him. He ended up doing 6 months in juvie. He's been in and out of trouble ever since, and my family still thinks he's the one who stole from that store. He's struggled with his life ever since, and I can't help but feel responsible for how things turned out for him. I've never told anyone the truth. Not my parents, not Jake. But the guilt is eating me alive. I ruined my brother's life to save my own skin, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to make it right. So I'm asking, am I the asshole for letting my brother go to jail for something I did, even though it destroyed his life? Story 6. Am I the asshole for kicking my girlfriend out after she tried to get me fired? I'm a 28-year-old guy, and I've been dating my girlfriend, Mia, for about a year and a half. Things were great at first, but lately, I started noticing some red flags. Mia always seemed to want more attention, more gifts, more of my time. I work in a high-pressure job as a project manager for a tech company, and long hours are part of the deal. Mia knew this when we started dating, but recently she started accusing me of putting work before her. A few months ago, I was up for a promotion that I had been working toward for years. I was excited, and I told Mia about it. Instead of being supportive, she told me that if I got the promotion, I'd be even more obsessed with work and that it would ruin our relationship. I reassured her that I'd find a balance, but she didn't seem convinced. Fast forward to a few weeks ago. I noticed things were off at work, meetings I wasn't invited to, rumors swirling about me missing deadlines, which I never do. Then, I got called into my boss's office. She told me she had received an anonymous email accusing me of being negligent, unprofessional, and emotionally unstable. It was detailed, personal, and full of lies. I knew right away who it was. Mia had access to my work computer when she would stay at my place. The writing style matched hers perfectly. I confronted her that night, and at first, she denied everything. But after I pushed, she broke down and admitted it. She said she was afraid that I'd leave her if I got the promotion and that she just wanted me to spend more time with her. I was furious. She had jeopardized my entire career over her insecurities. I told her to pack her things and get out of my apartment. She started crying, saying that I was overreacting, that she did it out of love, and that we could work through it. But how could I trust her after this? She tried to sabotage my job, the thing I've worked so hard for. Now she's telling everyone I threw her out over a small mistake, and some of my friends think I should give her another chance. They say she just acted out of fear and that I should forgive her. But I don't know if I can ever trust her again after what she did. Am I the asshole for kicking my girlfriend out after she tried to get me fired? Story 7. Am I the asshole for refusing to pay child support for a kid I didn't know about? About 6 months ago, I got a message from an old fling, Rachel, telling me I had a son. Apparently, she had gotten pregnant after our brief fling 5 years ago, and she decided not to tell me. She said she didn't want me involved and didn't need me. Now, out of the blue, she's asking for child support. I was shocked. I had no idea she even had a kid, let alone that he was mine. I asked why she waited so long to tell me, and she said she had been managing fine on her own but now needed financial help. She also admitted that she didn't want me to be part of our son's life when he was born because she didn't think I'd make a good father. That stung. I was angry. I felt blindsided, like my whole life had been a lie. But then I started thinking about the kid. It wasn't his fault that Rachel kept this secret from me. So, I agreed to take a paternity test, and sure enough, he's mine. But now, I'm being asked to pay child support for a child I had no say in raising, a child I didn't even know existed. I told Rachel that I would pay child support, but only if I got visitation rights. I wasn't just going to be an ATM. If I was going to be a father, I wanted to be involved in his life. But Rachel refused. She said she didn't want me to see him, that he already had a stable life without me, and that I was only good for financial support. She literally said, "You can pay, but you're not going to be his dad." I flat out refused to pay anything unless I got visitation rights. Now Rachel is threatening to take me to court. My family thinks I'm being too harsh and that I should just pay for the kid's sake, but I don't think it's fair that I'm being forced into this situation without any rights as a father. Am I the asshole for refusing to pay child support for a kid I didn't know about unless I get visitation rights? Story 8. Am I the asshole for going no contact with my parents after learning the truth about my real father? I'm 30 years old, and for my entire life, I believed that my dad, let's call him Jim, was my biological father. My parents, Jim and my mom, were always a little distant, but I thought that was just how they were. I never questioned it. A few months ago, I got a random message on Facebook from a guy I'd never heard of, saying he thought he was my real father. At first, I thought it was a scam or something, but then he sent me old pictures of my mom and him together, along with details about her that only someone close to her would know. I confronted my parents about it, and after a lot of back and forth, they finally admitted that Jim wasn't my real dad. My mom had an affair when she was young, and I was the result. They decided to stay together for appearances, and Jim raised me as his own. I was floored. They'd been lying to me for my entire life. What hurt the most was that they never told me the truth. My real father tried to contact them years ago, but they blocked him out, telling him to stay away from me. They robbed me of the chance to know him. I wasn't even angry that Jim wasn't my biological dad, he had been a good father, but I couldn't believe they had kept this huge secret from me for 30 years. I decided to go no contact with both of them. I couldn't handle the betrayal, and I felt like they didn't respect me enough to tell me the truth. Now, my family is in an uproar. My mom's been calling me non-stop, leaving messages, begging me to forgive them. Even Jim, who I thought would understand, has been trying to guilt-trip me into reconciling, saying that he gave up his life to raise me and that I owe them for everything they did. But how can I forgive them when they took away my chance to know my real father? I've even started talking to my biological dad, and it's been a strange but healing process. I feel like I'm finally getting to know a part of myself that was hidden for so long. My extended family thinks I'm overreacting and that I'm being cruel to my parents, who only wanted to protect me. But I feel like I deserve better than a lifetime of lies. Am I the asshole for going no contact with my parents after learning the truth about my real father? Story 9. Am I the asshole for exposing my brother's infidelity at his wedding? My brother Tom and his fiancée Lisa were on the brink of getting married. Tom and I have always had a close relationship, so when he asked me to be his best man, I was honored. Lisa, on the other hand, seemed like the perfect match for him. She was kind, caring, and seemed genuinely happy with Tom. However, about 6 months before the wedding, I stumbled upon something that shattered my image of Tom. He'd been having an affair with a coworker named Jenna. I discovered it by accident when I saw some text messages pop up on his phone during a family gathering. At first, I thought it might be a misunderstanding, so I tried to talk to Tom about it in private. He brushed it off, saying it was just a fling, and that he intended to break it off before the wedding. Despite his assurances, the affair continued. Tom claimed it was complicated, and he was waiting for the right time to end it. I pleaded with him to come clean to Lisa, but he was adamant that it would ruin everything. He argued that Lisa would never understand and that he didn't want to destroy her happiness. As the wedding day approached, I became increasingly uncomfortable. I couldn't stand the thought of Lisa walking down the aisle, committing her life to someone who was cheating on her. I tried to convince Tom to confess, but he insisted that everything was under control and that Lisa would never find out. The night before the wedding, I made the heart-wrenching decision to inform Lisa. I wrote her a detailed message explaining everything: Tom's affair, the ongoing contact with Jenna, and how Tom had been lying to her. I included screenshots of texts and evidence that I had gathered. I knew this would hurt her deeply, but I felt she had a right to know the truth before making such a significant commitment. Lisa was devastated. She confronted Tom, who initially denied everything but eventually admitted to the affair when confronted with the evidence. The wedding was called off, and the fallout was catastrophic. Tom was furious with me, his parents were livid, and our entire family was torn apart. Lisa tried to salvage some dignity but left, heartbroken and disillusioned. Now, Tom and I are estranged. My family is divided. Some support my decision, believing Lisa deserved to know the truth, while others think I was cruel for destroying Tom's chance at happiness. I feel conflicted. I wanted to protect Lisa, but the aftermath of my decision has left me questioning whether I did the right thing. Am I the asshole for exposing my brother's infidelity at his wedding? Story 10. Am I the asshole for not letting my best friend move in after he lost his job? My best friend Ryan and I have been inseparable since college. We've always had each other's backs, whether it was helping with last-minute cramming before exams or lending a hand during tough times. Recently, Ryan lost his job due to company downsizing. He came to me, asking if he could move in with me temporarily while he searched for a new job. Given our history, I agreed, thinking it would be a short-term arrangement and a way to support my friend. Ryan moved in and initially, everything seemed fine. But soon, small issues started to crop up. He wasn't helping with household chores, and he was often loud and disruptive, hosting gatherings and bringing friends over without asking. I began to feel like a landlord rather than a friend. He was also making questionable financial decisions, like buying new gadgets and ordering takeout frequently, despite being unemployed. I tried talking to Ryan about my concerns. I told him that while I wanted to help, he needed to contribute more around the house and be mindful of his spending. Ryan brushed off my concerns, saying that he needed to maintain some normalcy in his life to stay motivated. He accused me of not being supportive and that I was being too rigid. The situation deteriorated further when he started having loud arguments with his friends in the living room late at night. I was losing sleep and my work was being affected by the constant noise. I began to feel like my home was no longer my sanctuary but a battleground. I felt like I was sacrificing my comfort and privacy for the sake of helping him out. Eventually, I made the difficult decision to ask Ryan to move out. I told him that I needed my space back and that the arrangement wasn't working for either of us. Ryan was hurt and accused me of abandoning him in his time of need. He said that I was being selfish and that he thought I'd be more understanding. My family and some mutual friends are divided. Some think I did the right thing by setting boundaries and reclaiming my space, while others believe I should have been more patient and supportive. I'm still grappling with the decision, wondering if I should have found a different way to handle the situation. Am I the asshole for not letting my best friend move in after he lost his job? Story 11. Am I the asshole for excluding my sister from my will after she betrayed me? I'm 30 years old, and I've always had a close relationship with my sister Laura. Growing up, we shared everything: our room, our secrets, and our dreams. I was always there for her, supporting her through her ups and downs. When I came into a large sum of money from a successful business deal, I decided to set up a will, planning to leave the majority of my estate to Laura. I wanted to make sure she was financially secure. However, everything changed when I discovered that Laura had been betraying my trust. I found out that she had been using my personal information to make unauthorized transactions on my credit cards. The amount she stole was substantial, and it wasn't just a one-time thing. She had been doing this over several months. When I confronted her, she admitted to it, claiming that she was in deep financial trouble and didn't know how to ask for help. I was devastated and felt deeply betrayed. Laura had always been someone I trusted completely, and her actions felt like a profound betrayal. I struggled with the decision of what to do next. Ultimately, I decided to cut her out of my will entirely. I redirected my estate to charity and some close friends who had always been honest and supportive. When Laura found out, she was furious. She accused me of being vindictive and said I was punishing her for a mistake she deeply regretted. She begged me to reconsider, claiming that cutting her out of my will would have long-term repercussions on her life. My family is now divided. Some understand why I made the decision, while others think I'm being too harsh and that family should forgive and forget. I feel torn. I wanted to make sure that my estate went to those who truly deserved it, but I also wonder if I'm being too unforgiving. The betrayal was deeply hurtful, and I'm struggling with whether I did the right thing by excluding Laura. Am I the asshole for excluding my sister from my will after she betrayed me? Story 12. Am I the asshole for breaking off my engagement after discovering my fiancé's dark secret? My fiancée, Emily, and I had been together for 3 years before I proposed. We had a seemingly perfect relationship, and I thought we were on the same page about everything. Our engagement was the culmination of years of shared dreams and plans. Everything was going smoothly until a few months before our wedding. Emily started acting strangely, more secretive, distant, and often lost in thought. I assumed it was pre-wedding jitters, but then I stumbled upon something that shattered my world. I found a hidden folder on her laptop with videos and photos of her engaging in some very disturbing activities. The images showed her participating in illegal and highly inappropriate behavior, including explicit content involving people who were clearly not consenting adults. I was horrified and confused. I confronted Emily, expecting an explanation or, at the very least, an apology. To my shock, she didn't deny it. She said she had been involved in a secret life that she had kept hidden for years. Emily claimed that her actions were a result of deep-seated trauma and that she had been seeking professional help but didn't know how to tell me. She said she was trying to make amends and was committed to changing her ways. Despite her explanation, I felt utterly betrayed. Our relationship had been built on trust, and this revelation shattered that foundation. I couldn't reconcile the image of the woman I thought I knew with the person she had secretly become. I called off the wedding and ended the engagement, which caused a massive uproar. Emily was devastated, and our families were in chaos. They were torn between understanding my need to protect myself from such a shocking betrayal and condemning me for not giving Emily a chance to prove she had changed. My friends and family are divided. Some say I did the right thing by ending the engagement, believing that such a deep betrayal couldn't be overlooked. Others argue that I should have been more supportive and given Emily a chance to prove her commitment to change. I feel conflicted. I wanted to protect myself and make sure I wasn't marrying someone who had such a dark side, but I wonder if I was too quick to give up on our relationship. Am I the asshole for breaking off my engagement after discovering my fiancé's dark secret? Story 13. Am I the asshole for firing my longtime employee after discovering he was stealing from the company? I'm the owner of a small business, and I've always prided myself on creating a family-like atmosphere at work. One of my longest-serving employees, Dave, had been with me for nearly a decade. He was dependable, hardworking, and had always been a trusted part of our team. That's why it came as a complete shock when I discovered that he had been embezzling money from the company for months. It started when I noticed discrepancies in the financial reports. I dug deeper and found evidence that Dave had been manipulating expense reports and pocketing cash from the till. The total amount stolen was significant, and it became clear that he had been running this scheme for a long time. I confronted Dave, and after an initial denial, he admitted to everything. He said he was in financial trouble and felt trapped, believing that he had no other way to get out of his situation. I decided to fire Dave immediately. I also reported him to the authorities, which led to a formal investigation. Dave's actions caused significant damage to my business, both financially and in terms of employee morale. His betrayal was particularly painful because he had been a trusted member of the team for so long. The fallout was intense. Dave's family and some of our mutual friends criticized me for not handling the situation more privately and for not giving Dave a chance to make amends. They said that I should have worked out a repayment plan or at least offered him some form of help rather than resorting to legal action. My other employees were divided. Some supported my decision, understanding that stealing was unacceptable, while others felt that firing Dave and going public was too harsh. I'm struggling with whether I was too quick to act or if I did the right thing by protecting my business and upholding ethical standards. The trust one had in Dave was shattered, and now I'm left wondering if there was a better way to handle the situation. Am I the asshole for firing my longtime employee after discovering he was stealing from the company? Story 14. Am I the asshole for cutting off my brother's medical treatment after he ruined my life? My brother, Alex, and I had always been close growing up. We shared everything, our dreams, our struggles, and our lives. However, things took a dark turn a few years ago. I had a successful career and was on track to achieve my goals. Then, Alex made a series of poor decisions that led him into severe financial trouble. Despite his mistakes, I helped him out repeatedly: loans, financial advice, and emotional support. A year ago, Alex was diagnosed with a serious health condition that required expensive treatment. My initial reaction was to support him, as I had always done. I started covering his medical bills, which were substantial. I wanted to ensure that he got the best care possible, even though it was a significant financial burden on me. However, Alex's condition became a black hole for my resources. It reached a point where I was taking on debt just to keep up with his medical expenses. Then, I discovered that Alex had been hiding another aspect of his life from me. He had been using my financial support to fund a lavish lifestyle, including expensive vacations and luxury items. He had been lying about his condition and misusing the money I provided. When I confronted him, he admitted that he had been dishonest but said it was because he felt ashamed and didn't want me to think less of him. The betrayal hit me hard. I was devastated not only by his dishonesty but also by the realization that my sacrifices were being used to maintain a facade. I made the difficult decision to cut off his financial support and, consequently, his access to the medical treatment he needed. I told him that if he wanted to continue his treatment, he would have to find another way to pay for it. This decision was driven by a mix of anger, disappointment, and financial necessity. The aftermath was chaotic. Alex's health deteriorated, and he was left with limited options for treatment. My family and friends are divided. Some understand my decision, believing that Alex's actions were inexcusable and that I needed to protect myself from further exploitation. Others argue that I should have continued to support him, pointing out that his health was the most important thing and that my decision was too harsh given the circumstances. I feel torn between my anger over the betrayal and my guilt over cutting off his treatment. I wanted to uphold my own boundaries and avoid further exploitation, but I'm left questioning whether I should have found a way to support him without enabling his deceitful behavior. Am I the asshole for cutting off my brother's medical treatment after he ruined my life? Story 15. Am I the asshole for telling my fiancée she can't have kids after she lied about her past? My fiancée, Jessica, and I have been together for almost 5 years, and everything seemed perfect. We were planning our wedding, dreaming about our future, and had recently begun talking about starting a family. I was excited about the idea of having kids with her, and we even discussed names and schools. One evening, while we were out having dinner with a couple of her old friends, one of them got a little tipsy and mentioned something about Jessica not being cut out for motherhood. The comment caught me off guard, but Jessica brushed it off quickly, laughing it away as a joke. Still, something about the way she reacted didn't sit right with me, so I decided to ask her about it later that night. At first, Jessica tried to dodge the conversation, claiming it was just a stupid thing her friend said. But after some persistence, she finally admitted the truth. Jessica had had a child when she was younger, before we met. She gave the child up for adoption and had never told me about it. She said it was the most difficult decision she'd ever made and that she'd been trying to forget that part of her life. I was completely blindsided. I couldn't believe she had kept something so significant from me. I felt betrayed, like our entire relationship had been built on a lie. I asked her why she had never told me about this before, especially since we had been talking about starting a family. She said she was afraid I would judge her, or that I wouldn't want to be with someone who had a child out there in the world. I couldn't wrap my head around it. I told her that if she could lie about something this huge, how could I trust her to raise children with me? I said that I wasn't sure I even wanted kids with her anymore and that we should hold off on the wedding until we had worked through this. Jessica broke down, saying I was punishing her for a mistake she made years ago when she was in a vulnerable situation. She begged me to understand that she had done what she thought was best at the time, but all I could feel was a deep sense of betrayal. I didn't know how to move forward with our plans when it felt like the foundation of our relationship had crumbled. Now, Jessica's devastated, and our wedding is on hold. Her friends and family think I'm being too harsh, saying that she had every right to keep her past private, and that it doesn't change who she is now. My friends are divided. Some agree with me that this was a massive breach of trust, while others say I should forgive her and move on. Am I the asshole for telling my fiancé I don't want kids with her after she lied about her past? Story 16. Am I the asshole for refusing to pay for my son's wedding after discovering his fiancé cheated on him? I have a son, Jason, who's 28 years old. He's been with his fiancée, Amber, for about 3 years, and they're supposed to get married in a few months. I've always had reservations about Amber. There was something about her that seemed off, but Jason was head over heels for her, so I kept my doubts to myself. About a month ago, I was out with some colleagues at a bar when I saw Amber there. She was with another man, and they were definitely not just friends. They were kissing, holding hands, and being way too affectionate for it to be platonic. I was stunned. I immediately took a photo of them and left the bar, completely shocked at what I had just witnessed. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't believe Amber was cheating on my son so close to their wedding. After a few days of agonizing over it, I decided to confront Amber privately before saying anything to Jason. When I showed her the photo and asked her what was going on, she broke down crying and admitted that she had been having an affair for the past 6 months. I was furious. I told her she had 2 options, either she could come clean to Jason herself, or I would. She begged me not to tell him, saying that it would destroy him and that she had made a huge mistake but was ready to end the affair and commit fully to Jason. I didn't believe her. I told her she had 1 week to tell Jason the truth, or I would do it. A week passed, and Amber didn't say a word. So, I sat Jason down and told him everything. He was devastated. At first, he didn't believe me, but when I showed him the photo and told him about my conversation with Amber, he couldn't deny it anymore. Jason was heartbroken, but to my surprise, after a few days, he decided to forgive Amber and move forward with the wedding. I couldn't believe it. I told Jason that I couldn't support the wedding and that I wouldn't be paying for any of it. I had initially offered to cover most of the expenses, but I couldn't stand by and watch him marry someone who had betrayed him so deeply. Jason was furious. He accused me of trying to sabotage his relationship and said that it was his decision to make, not mine. Now, my son and I are barely speaking. He's determined to marry Amber, and I'm standing firm on my decision not to pay for the wedding. Our family is divided. Some think I should just let Jason make his own mistakes and support him no matter what, while others agree with me that Amber's actions are unforgivable. Am I the asshole for refusing to pay for my son's wedding after discovering his fiancée cheated on him? Story 17. Am I the asshole for disowning my dad after he married my ex-girlfriend? My dad has always been a bit of a player. My parents got divorced when I was a kid because my mom couldn't handle his constant cheating, and he's been in and out of relationships ever since. I've always tried to maintain a relationship with him, but it's been hard because I've never really trusted him. A couple of years ago, I dated a woman named Sarah. We were together for about a year, but the relationship didn't end well. She was manipulative and constantly played mind games, which ultimately drove us apart. After we broke up, I was hurt but relieved to be rid of her. Fast forward to a few months ago, I found out through the grapevine that my dad and Sarah had been seeing each other. At first, I thought it was just a rumor, but then I saw them together at a family event, holding hands, kissing, the whole 9 yards. I was disgusted. Sarah is 15 years younger than my dad, and the fact that he was dating my ex-girlfriend felt like a massive betrayal. I confronted my dad, and he didn't deny it. In fact, he told me he was in love with Sarah and that they were planning to get married. I was furious. I couldn't believe he would stoop so low as to date someone I had been in a serious relationship with. He claimed that they hadn't started seeing each other until long after Sarah and I broke up, but it didn't matter to me. It felt like a complete violation of family loyalty. I told my dad that if he went through with the marriage, I wouldn't be a part of his life anymore. He brushed it off, saying I was being immature and that he wasn't going to let me dictate his love life. Sure enough, they got married in a small ceremony a few weeks later, and I stuck to my word. I haven't spoken to him since. Now, my dad is reaching out, saying that I'm overreacting and that I'm punishing him for something that's not a big deal. He thinks I should be happy that he's found love and that Sarah isn't the same person she was when we were together. My mom and siblings are divided. Some think I'm right to cut him off, while others think I should just let it go and move on. I feel like my dad crossed a line that can't be uncrossed, but I'm starting to wonder if I'm being too stubborn by cutting him out of my life completely. Am I the asshole for disowning my dad after he married my ex-girlfriend? Story 18. Am I the asshole for secretly changing my mother's will after she disowned me? I was raised in a strict, controlling household. My mother was the kind of woman who always needed things to be done her way, no exceptions. She had a firm belief in tough love, which often bordered on emotional abuse. Growing up, nothing I did was ever good enough for her, and as soon as I turned 18, I left home and tried to live my life without her constant criticism. For years, my relationship with my mother was strained, but we still spoke occasionally. Things took a turn for the worse when I came out as gay. My mother disowned me almost immediately. She said that I was an abomination, and that I was no longer welcome in her life. It broke me, but I tried to move on. I built a new life with my partner, and for a long time, I had no contact with my mother at all. Fast forward to last year, I found out through a distant family member that my mother was seriously ill. Despite everything, I still felt some obligation to check on her, so I reached out. She was cold, but she allowed me to visit her a few times. During one of those visits, I noticed a stack of paperwork on her desk, her will, neatly laid out for her lawyer to finalize. Curiosity got the better of me, and when she wasn't looking, I skimmed through the documents. As expected, she had completely cut me out of her will. Everything was going to my estranged siblings, people who had never bothered to check in on her, while I was listed as getting nothing. It stung, especially after I had been the only one to visit her in her final days. I don't know what came over me, but I did something I never thought I'd be capable of. When she fell asleep one afternoon, I took the will and made copies. Then I altered the original document, changing the beneficiaries to give myself half of her estate, and leaving the other half to my siblings. I figured it was more than fair considering how she had treated me, and how they hadn't even bothered to visit her. Once I made the changes, I slipped the will back into its place and acted like nothing had happened. A few weeks later, my mother passed away. When her lawyer revealed the terms of the will, my siblings were shocked. They accused me of manipulating our mother in her final days, but I played dumb. They don't know I altered the will, and I don't plan on telling them. But the guilt is starting to eat at me, especially as they continue to contest the will in court. They think my mother was coerced, but in reality, I was the one who changed everything behind her back. Now, I'm left with a substantial inheritance and a heavy conscience. I keep telling myself that my mother deserved it for how she treated me, but deep down, I wonder if I crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. Am I the asshole for secretly changing my mother's will after she disowned me? Story 19. Am I the asshole for refusing to save my best friend from financial ruin after he stole my idea? My best friend, Chris, and I have been close since college. We were both business majors, and after graduation, we dreamed of starting a company together. We always talked about building something from the ground up, but life got in the way. I took a corporate job, while Chris decided to go out on his own and pursue various ventures. A few years ago, I came up with a brilliant idea for a tech startup. It was a niche concept, but I knew it had the potential to be incredibly successful. I spent months developing the idea, doing research, and planning how to launch it. I made the mistake of telling Chris about it, thinking that maybe we could finally work together on something big. Instead, Chris took my idea and ran with it, behind my back. He started his own company based on my concept, launched it without telling me, and even secured investors. By the time I found out, he was already gaining traction in the industry, and I was left standing on the sidelines, watching him profit off my hard work. When I confronted him, Chris acted like it wasn't a big deal. He said that I had never officially claimed the idea and that if I wanted to, I could have launched it myself. I was furious, but there was nothing I could do legally, so I cut ties with him and moved on. I tried to put the betrayal behind me, but the bitterness never fully went away. Fast forward to now, Chris's company is in serious financial trouble. He reached out to me, asking for help. He needs a cash injection to stay afloat, and since I'm doing well in my own career, he thinks I can bail him out. He apologized for what he did and begged for my forgiveness, saying that we could go into business together now, just like we had always dreamed. I laughed in his face. After everything he did, there was no way I was going to help him. I told him that he was on his own and that maybe this was karma coming back to bite him. Chris is desperate, and his company is days away from collapsing. Our mutual friends are saying that I'm being petty and that I should help him out for the sake of our old friendship. Even my family thinks I should offer him a lifeline. But I can't get past the betrayal. Why should I save him when he stabbed me in the back and stole my idea? I worked hard to get where I am, and he took the easy route, thinking he could get away with it. Now that he's failing, he expects me to clean up his mess. Am I the asshole for refusing to save my best friend from financial ruin after he stole my idea? Story 20. Am I the asshole for faking a DNA test to break up my sister's marriage? My sister, Emily, has been married to her husband, Tom, for about 10 years. On the surface, they seem like the perfect couple, 2 kids, a nice house, and a seemingly happy marriage. But I've never liked Tom. He's always had this smug, condescending attitude, especially toward me. He's constantly bragging about how great his life is, how successful he is, and how much better he is than everyone else. It drove me insane. A few months ago, during a family get-together, I overheard Tom talking to one of his friends about a wild night he had before he and Emily got married. He laughed about how Emily had no idea and how he had gotten away with cheating on her multiple times. That was the last straw for me. I wasn't going to let my sister stay married to a guy who was unfaithful, especially someone as arrogant as Tom. So, I hatched a plan. I knew Tom was the biological father of both of their kids, there was no doubt about that. But I also knew that if I could get Emily to question his fidelity, it would drive a wedge between them. I bought one of those over-the-counter DNA tests and swapped out Tom's sample for someone else's, an old friend of mine. Then, I gave it to Emily as a gift, telling her I thought it would be fun for them to see their family heritage. When the results came back, they showed that Tom wasn't the father of their youngest child. Emily was devastated. She confronted Tom, who was just as shocked as she was. He denied everything, swore up and down that he had never cheated, and even offered to take a professional DNA test to prove it. But Emily was so hurt and confused that she didn't know what to believe. The trust between them was shattered. Over the next few weeks, their marriage started to fall apart. They fought constantly, and Emily even kicked Tom out of the house for a while. The whole family was caught in the middle of the drama, and I watched as their once happy relationship crumbled. Now, months later, Emily is in the process of filing for divorce. She never took the professional DNA test, and Tom is still fighting to prove his innocence, but the damage is done. Part of me feels guilty, but another part of me feels satisfied. Tom deserved to be taken down a peg, and now Emily will be free of someone who was unfaithful to her from the start. The guilt is starting to weigh on me, though. I never told Emily the truth, and I don't think I ever will. But I can't help wondering if I went too far. Am I the asshole for faking a DNA test to break up my sister's marriage? Story 21. Am I the asshole for telling my wife I'll only pay for our daughter's wedding if she breaks off her engagement? My daughter, Lily, has always been a bit of a free spirit. She's 24 now, and about a year ago, she got engaged to a guy named Kyle. I've met Kyle a few times, and I can't stand him. He's lazy, immature, and has no real ambition. He works a dead-end job, barely makes enough to support himself, and I can already tell that he's relying on Lily to carry the financial weight in their relationship. Lily, on the other hand, is driven and successful. She's got a great job and a bright future ahead of her. I don't understand what she sees in Kyle, and I've told her several times that I think she's making a mistake by marrying him. But Lily insists that they're in love and that Kyle will grow up once they're married. A few weeks ago, Lily and my wife sat me down to talk about wedding plans. They asked me how much I was willing to contribute, and I gave them a figure, a generous one, I might add. But then I added a condition: would only pay for the wedding if Lily broke off her engagement to Kyle. I told her that I wasn't going to waste my hard-earned money on a marriage that I knew was doomed to fail. Lily was furious. She said I was being manipulative and controlling, and that I had no right to make such an ultimatum. My wife was just as angry, accusing me of trying to sabotage Lily's happiness. They both stormed out, and now they're barely speaking to me. I stand by what I said, though. I refuse to support a marriage that I know will end in disaster. I'm not going to throw thousands of dollars at a wedding when I know Kyle is just going to drag Lily down. My friends and colleagues agree with me. They think I'm being realistic and that Lily will thank me one day. But my wife and daughter are still furious, and I'm starting to wonder if I've pushed too hard. I've always believed in tough love, and I think that sometimes you have to be cruel to be kind. But now I'm facing the possibility of losing my relationship with my daughter because of it. Am I the asshole for telling my wife I'll only pay for our daughter's wedding if she breaks off her engagement? Story 22. Am I the asshole for refusing to support my son after he was outed and disowned? My son, David, is 21 years old. Last year, he came out as gay to our family, and to say my wife and I didn't take it well is an understatement. We were raised in a very traditional, conservative household, and we've always held strong beliefs about family, marriage, and what's right. When David told us he was gay, it felt like a betrayal of everything we had taught him. At first, I tried to talk him out of it. I thought maybe it was a phase, or that he was confused. But David was firm, this was who he was, and there was no changing it. My wife was even more devastated than I was. She broke down crying, saying that David had ruined the family and that she didn't know how to move forward. Eventually, we told David that if he was going to live this lifestyle, he couldn't do it under our roof. We gave him an ultimatum: either he could stop living as a gay man, or he could leave and be on his own. David chose to leave. He moved out and cut off most contact with us, only occasionally checking in through text messages. A few months later, we found out through mutual friends that David had been completely disowned by his boyfriend's family as well. They had kicked him out when they found out about the relationship, and now he was living with friends, barely scraping by. He had lost his job, was struggling financially, and was in a bad place mentally. My wife and I were devastated to hear this, but I stood firm in my decision not to support him. I told her that David had made his choice, and now he had to live with the consequences. I refused to send him money or let him move back home. I believed that he needed to come to his senses, and realize that this was not the life he was meant to live. My wife, on the other hand, is starting to waver. She's been crying a lot lately, saying that she misses David and that she can't stand the thought of him struggling. She wants to reach out and offer him support, but I've put my foot down. I believe that if we give in now, we're just enabling him to continue down this path. But the more I see my wife hurting, the more I wonder if I'm being too harsh. I don't want to lose my son completely, but I also don't want to compromise on our values. Now I'm torn between standing by my beliefs and trying to repair my broken family. Am I the asshole for refusing to support my son after he was outed and disowned? Story 23. Am I the asshole for refusing to let my wife name our baby after her ex? My wife and I are expecting our first child, and everything was going smoothly, until we started talking baby names. She threw out a few suggestions, but then she mentioned the name Jake. At first, it didn't seem like a big deal, but then I realized, Jake is the name of her ex-boyfriend, the guy she dated seriously for 3 years before we got together. I couldn't believe it. I asked her if she really wanted to name our son after her ex, and she just shrugged, saying it was a name she always liked, and it had nothing to do with him. But come on, how am I supposed to feel about that? Every time I'd call my son's name, I'd be reminded of this guy. It's not something I can just ignore. I told her straight up that it made me uncomfortable. I even offered to consider similar names, Jack, James, whatever, but she insisted that Jake was the only name she really liked. She said I was being insecure, that I was reading too much into it. She told me to trust her, that it was just a name and had no real connection to her ex. But I couldn't shake the feeling. We've been arguing about this for days now, and it's gotten pretty tense. She thinks I'm making a big deal out of nothing, but I feel like my concerns are valid. This isn't just about a name, it's about the association with her past, and I don't want that hanging over our family. Every time I think about it, I get more frustrated, and now it's affecting how we're talking about the baby in general. She says I'm being unreasonable, and maybe I am. Maybe I'm letting my jealousy get in the way, but I don't think I'm asking for much. There are thousands of names out there, why does it have to be the one that ties back to her ex? It feels like an unnecessary hill to die on, but at the same time, I can't just ignore it. Am I wrong for refusing to let her name our son after her ex, or is this a reasonable line to draw? Am I the asshole for refusing to let my wife name our baby after her ex? Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss more crazy, real Reddit stories. Hit the bell to get notified when new stories drop. See you next time on Reddit Story Vault.